So this is the ColecoVision I have. This is the front case. You've got to use your imagination because right around the back is the actual one, and I have literally just this minute done a composite video mod. It's actually very simple and very quick and easy, and there is a link in the description. I've also done the audio, so I get a clean audio out. I literally soldered a wire straight to the part where the audio was heading straight to the RF modulator. Donkey Kong! Alright, let's get this turned on. Oh. That's amazing! But that's not what this YouTube channel is about. No, we're not sitting here playing games and stuff. We're trying to make music out of things that don't usually make music, and that's where this thing comes in. Yes, it's the CVDRUM for the ColecoVision. And turn it on and see what we have got. Ooh, slips straight into the controller like so. And it fits like a glove, it fits like a glove, look at that. Ooh, beautiful. That's what we've got to do is we've got to actually write a pattern. I'm just going to put some kick drums on it, I think. Play pattern. Wow, that's not a kick drum. I have heard somebody describe the drum sounds in the CVDRUM. If an alien was described what drum sounds were and they had to recreate them, this is what they would sound like. Play. If we go to live play mode, it means we can actually play all of the drum sounds in the ColecoVision with the numeric button. So I'm kind of wondering if we can actually build a sequencer to play this, and then it kind of just means that we don't need to actually program any sequences in here, and we can still use a ColecoVision to make drums for some strange reason. I'm not sure whether this is going to be the best idea or the worst idea. It's probably going to be closer to the worst idea than the best idea, but nevertheless, I think it's worth trying. So yeah, I found this panel around the back, and it just so happens to be exactly the right size. So we put the ColecoVision on top, and there's space underneath at the bottom for a sequencer. So the plan would be to make a sequencer that talks to the controller, so we can also use the controller as well. So all of the functions are still going to be there on the controller and this, and then basically just an ability to plug in a sequencer to basically sequence the 8 drums that are on button 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. And yeah, then we're going to make a sequencer. It's so much more heavy duty than other kind of game consoles of the period. It's like really well put together. It's basically going to be the case of figuring out the pinout of this numeric display, and then we basically just need to set up some transistors to sort of talk to all of these cables. It's going to be that simple, I think. So actually, after a quick look underneath here, basically I just followed all of the lines that are on here to the pins out here. Basically, this right here is a number of the pinouts correlating to this numeric display. So this one is pin 1, this one's pin 2, all of these correlate to this, and then this final one on this side is actually the common switch between all of them. It actually does get compressed down to less pins later on in the controller. It actually goes down to the red, brown, orange and yellow pins. You can actually get all of these via making circuits between these 4 pins. It means that we only actually need 5 wires coming from this whole thing to trigger all of the drum pads. Basically it goes like this. Green wire right here is the common wire, and that needs to connect to certain combinations of the brown, yellow, orange and red wires to actually choose which button it wants to push. So that needs red and yellow to be connected to the green wire. This combination is made possible by the matrix of passive diodes right here, and you can think of diodes like one-way roads. So it only lets the electricity go one way, which means you're able to make like very fancy like patterns and stuff using just a few diodes. Anyway, the next thing we need to do is solder a wire to the green, the red, the orange, the yellow and the brown cables, and figure out a way of connecting those 5 wires to something outside of the controller. I'm going to use this, which is actually a female MIDI cable, you know, female 5-pinned in, with the wires off the back. Drill a little hole and have this dangling out the bottom. This could go very wrong. Pop that in there, squeeze that in there, give that a bend around. That should be nice and solid. Yeah, that's good. So now I just need to solder the wires onto the necessary pins. You may be asking yourself, why the heck have you done it like this? Why didn't you just make a sort of proprietary thing that would just plug in to the same thing the controller plugs in? This is preposterous. Well, basically, I've done it this way so that the controller can be plugged in as well as the sequencer. This means you can still use the controller while the sequencer is running, which is not possible if you plug it in. You could make a splitter cable, I guess. I guess you could use a splitter cable. Oh, well, I've done it now. I've done it. It's happened and it looks funky. So with that in mind, I can now trigger the different drum sounds with connecting this wire to various combinations of these 4 cables that are coming from the MIDI cable that is connected to the actual controller. So if you listen, like, there we go. The next thing I need to do is swap this wire with a transistor so I can send a voltage into it to make that happen. There we go. So now right here is a circuit that I've put together that's basically going to talk. So I've got the necessary diodes to actually press all the buttons from 1 over to 8 via a transistor each. And now instead of being pushed by your finger, it's being pushed by power, electricity. Yeah, and then a snare, which actually sounds a bit like a snare. I quite like that. I'm not sure what the rest of them are supposed to be. Okay, so we sort of figured out what's going on and we've made an interface device that will let us kind of control the buttons using some voltages. So we now need to make a sequencer that basically tells the electricity when to do the electricity things. And the first thing that we need to do is drill a whole load of holes because we're going to need a whole load of switches. Make sure you sufficiently get it on all of your furniture because that's what furniture's for, it's for getting covered in paint. So here it is, after a couple of days I have finally basically soldered it together. At the bottom is the drum sequencer and on the back is all of the wires and such. Quite a busy little thing and I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about it in a subsequent video coming in a week or so that basically talks about the sequencer that I'm using. It's a very simple drum sequencer, but it's a drum sequencer nevertheless. And in this situation right here, this drum sequencer is basically sequencing the button pushes that play the drums on the CVDRUM. And yeah, the drums in the CVDRUM don't sound like drums, so I think it's quite a stretch to call this a drum machine because they just don't sound like drums at all, and this might have been a massive waste of time. Another thing to note is the ColecoVision actually uses, get in focus now, the same sound chip as the Master System and a number of other game consoles. And I had this idea last night and I was going to implement it by circuit bending this machine in a kind of like neo circuit bend. I was going to get multiple ones of these. Basically what happens is this has 8 different pins and the signals that go into these 8 pins basically tell it what to play. But if you send the signals in wrong, so if you send pin 2 to pin 6 and then mix and match them, then you'll get a different audio thing. I mean, it'll just be a garble. So what I'm going to do for a part 2 of this is actually circuit bend the fudge out of this. But right now, let's just put the case back on and plug it in and see where we're at. Right, so let's plug this in. I'm not expecting a massive amount of like crazy good times coming out of this thing, but it's a thing nevertheless, and we're gonna see what it sounds like regardless. So I'm going to start by pressing play and hopefully we'll see a sequence coming through. Oh yeah, here we go. So we've got the, you can see the LEDs running along. I'm going to put in a snare, why not? Oh yeah. Right, let's get the kick. Okay. Oh, this is genuinely an instrument, I promise. So I should have thought about this before I actually made it, but you know, it can only pretty much play one note, one drum sound at a time. So what might be more sensible having like 16 rotary switches to select between the sounds. And yeah, it can't really work that quickly. I can imagine on the actual sequencer inside, it would have worked pretty well, but well, you never know. You just build things and don't really think about it. It doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. It just matters that it's built, right? Anyway, let's just add some other synths and instruments to it and just, yeah, go with the flow, I guess. So there we go, that's what you get after a long weekend, kind of just messing around with a ColecoVision. As you can see, I haven't completely ruined the machine. It still works exactly how it used to. I'm by no means finished with this project. It's a very strange project indeed, and I have a few ideas of how to modify the sound in ways that I think would actually add to the projects. I just need to wait for a few more chips to turn up to pop them inside here. Isolated loops of this and stuff like that are available on my Patreon, so if you want to use the loops for this and that and the other, then it's over there, and needless to say that supports rather ridiculous projects like this. And I've been talking about this over on my Patreon for the last few weeks, so yeah, it's just if you want to like see more vlogs and stuff like that, go and check it out over there. Anyway, until the next time, I've been Look Mum No Computer. If you like this kind of stuff, don't forget to subscribe and don't be scared to try it.